Let's talk about Chris Cuomo. We got this story from the New York Times. CNN suspends Chris Cuomo after new details on help he gave his brother. The cable news network's top-rated anchor was an enthusiastic advisor to Andrew Cuomo in the last 18 months of his governorship. But I love how they don't use the headline, Chris Cuomo suspended indefinitely after stalking the victims of his creepy Cuomo brother. Instead, they're like, well, he was helping his brother. It's almost like they're trying to make it sound like a good thing and get people to be like, how could they do that to Chris Cuomo? But this is an example of media collusion, Democrat-friendly media. Chris Cuomo on CNN. CNN, of course, is not a news institution at this point. They're content creators. That's about what they are. And they not only give favorable coverage to their Democrat buddies, Chris Cuomo not only helped cover up, or at least not report on, to be as fair as I can, the elderly who were being killed in these nursing homes, but he actively assisted his brother. It's a conflict of interest for the network. It's a conflict of interest for him personally. But the craziest thing about it was that he was actually trying to dig up dirt on those who were accusing his brother. I think I'm surprised to hear it, that CNN's actually suspending him. Nobody believed it was going to happen. I don't know what you guys think.
They got Fredo. Now, please do Cooper and Wolf Blitzer, please.
And the brain eating guy.
And the brain, he's gone already.
Yeah,
but there's also a Potato Head in there, and other Vanderbilts. There's a lot of different people in there. But regardless of that, it's interesting to see him suspended because it's also going to be interesting to see if he got paid vacation for this. But with the way CNN has been behaving, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull off another Lubin Tubin kind of incident, and he comes back in 6 months and then gives kind of a half-assed apology and then kind of continues on with his trauma-based mind control that he kind of spews to the general public.
Trauma-based?
So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. A lot of people are saying, why wasn't he fired? I do think he's going to come back, but that's just my own personal opinion later down when everything kind of dies down.
Yeah, I think for me, I wish I could join in the parade of celebration. And I don't like Chris Cuomo either, and I'm happy that, I think he deserves to get fired. It couldn't have happened to a more deserving guy. But at the same time, you just know that they're going to replace him with someone who's 50 times worse. It's the same thing that happened in New York, and everybody on the right was celebrating because Andrew Cuomo got the axe. And I'm usually taking the cynical view of things. So in that case, I'm thinking, well, there's a reason why the left has decided to throw this guy under the bus, because they never throw their own guys under the bus, and they're only going to do it if they know they have somebody waiting in the wings who's going to be even more their servant on the far left. And so then Kathy Hochul gets in there. And
that's how you say your name, Hochul?
That's how I say it. I have no idea if that's actually Hochul, I don't know. But she gets in there, and she's far more far left than Cuomo was. And so, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to replace him with someone like their own version of Joy Reid or something. On CNN.
Take a look at, Andrew and Chris Cuomo. They're white men. So certainly, I know it's, a little silly to bring up, but I'm willing to bet that there are culty wokeists who are just like, what can we do to remove these guys? And so they'll exploit any crisis. Now, truth be told, Andrew Cuomo, there's pictures of him grabbing people. And then my favorite thing about his whole scandal was he was like, let me show you all a montage of me grabbing more people to prove that I do it to everybody. And I'm like, oh, so he admits it, right? But Chris, as a member, as a staff member at CNN, we all assumed even yesterday talking about this that he was going to be protected. The fact that they're suspending him indefinitely, it could mean that they could decide to bring him back. They say pending further review or whatever. But yeah, they're going to have someone fill that slot immediately. Then how much you want to bet it's going to be someone who's particularly woke.
Yeah, I bet there's probably some inner politics that we don't even know about that kind of unfolded here, because to see both Cuomo brothers taken down by the establishment kind of shows that there's something else happening here that we don't know about. I mean, it was the New York Attorney General that released the private messages between him and his brother. So obviously something bigger here is at play. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bigger power move, and if there was a request for the Cuomos to do something and then they kind of turned it down. I think there's a possibility for that, but again, we're kind of speculating here. But
why did she release the text? Do we know?
She's, for one thing, she's running for governor, so she wants his job.
Wow.
So that's one thing.
Jeez.
But you also brought up a good point about, I didn't even think about this, but Tubin.
Yeah.
So
Lubin Tubin is officially his internet name.
Yeah. His name is Tubin.
Right.
Yeah, come on, man.
But somehow he survives. And the thing about that, people talk about that and they say, well, he accidentally was on camera, or it was a big mishap. No, he didn't know he was on camera, but he didn't accidentally fall and trip and you know, pleasure himself. That part he did on. He knew that he was he tried to do that during a meeting. The only thing is he didn't know that people were watching him. So that's a really serious infraction when it comes to sexual harassment in the workplace. And somehow he survives that at CNN. And women at CNN have to like go into the break room and be around this guy, you know, drinking a cup of coffee, knowing
he's at a meeting with other women and he's lubing the tubing. I mean, and imagine your conversations with someone. It's just sick on so many levels. Like, how more like perverted can you get than
CNN?
It is CNN. It is pretty seedy place.
Yeah. I'm like, with everything that's gone at CNN, first, we got the guy who ate the brains. You remember that? Reza Aslan ate human brain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he ate. Reza Aslan ate human brain.
And then he lost his mind.
And, well, maybe he was always crazy. He ate human
I don't
brain.
know. Yeah.
But he eats human brain. I just got to say it a couple times. Like, people need to understand this about the CNN host. Did a show where he sat down with a bunch of, religious. It was like a Hindu extremist group. They gave him a small piece of brain, and he ate it. Yeah. So you've got things like that.
How did they get the brain?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I think it was from a deceased person, if I remember correctly. The video's still up on YouTube, and YouTube still actively promotes CNN, even though they cause so much irreversible harm to female employees and other innocent people.
I was going to say that too. So you not only have that, you have Chris Cuomo and the conflicts of interest, and you have Don Lemon.
He's facing charges.
Yeah, he also assaulted a guy, and he's accused of assaulting a guy.
Yeah.
What did he do? He shoved his hands in his pants and then shoved them in the guy's face.
The details are of course contested here, but it's adult assault, family-friendly show of another man. Those are the accusations against him. It's going to go in a trial soon. It's going to be divulged, all the details. So it's going to be.
And now, and then we obviously Cuomo's conflict of interest, trying to dig up dirt on the accusers against his brother. And now that we got to get into this tubing thing, because you brought up a really good point, and I want to stress this. Imagine you are, so here's what happens with Tubin. He's in a virtual, it was like a Zoom meeting, right, with a bunch of people, and he decides he's going to crank it out while watching all of his coworkers.
Right. Yeah.
And he didn't realize his camera was still on. So they suspend him. They bring him back. Now, you brought up a really good point in the break room, but imagine this. Imagine you got to call the guy, and you're like, imagine a female employee. And they're told like, oh, can you get on a call with Tubin?
Nope, can't do that.
Hold on a second. I gotta write something down.
Oh gosh.
Like, because imagine this. Imagine what it would be like if you're, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, and you call this guy and he's on a treadmill, and like
he's panting and breathing heavy.
Yeah. Tell me more. Tell me more about the project.
That's a good idea.
I don't think he spends a lot of time on a treadmill.
I don't think so either.
Tell me more how you hate Trump.
Oh God.
What are you doing? And then he's like, I was set up. I was on the staircase.
Getting pumped the whole time.
Getting pumped. Getting pumped. That's one way to put it, Ian.
Oh
a lot of people are laughing that I said that the brain came from a deceased person, and people are saying,
true.
obviously, But there's also a lot of
how did he become deceased?
Yeah, that's really the question. Yeah.
There's also a lot of "Let's go Fredo" comments in the chat room, and I think one of the best comments that I saw about this situation was from Danny Polishchuk, who said, "Another content creator bites the dust," with the news of Fredo getting fired.
Have you seen? Do you watch like Ryan Long's comedy?
Yeah.
He did a bit with Danny Polishchuk. I'm saying that wrong, right?
Polishchuk.
And Danny's joke was call these journalists content creators. And then Ryan is like, that the people on the leftist journalists will freak out, and the right would be like, or whatever, like not really care. So I agree. So I've been calling the people at CNN content creators. I'm not gonna, they're not journalists.
Well, it's like the MSNBC. They decided that Rachel Maddow wasn't actually a journalist. They're like, oh, she's giving too much of an opinion to be a journalist. So it's like, yeah, she's basically a content creator. What'd you call her?
I mean, I think it's fine to call them pundits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But content creator is meant to, like, Ryan nails it.
Yeah.
It's going to drive them crazy, and none of us would care to be called it. Like, I don't know, whatever.
I like the old school kind of prostitutes. I think that has
like
a nice
that.
ring
That's
to
nice,
it.
yeah.
Personally, myself, but I think universally, if we just all started calling them content creators, it would really bother them and get underneath their skin. So I think we should normalize this and implement this rule.
It's good trolling.
This kind of unspoken rule, like, hey, if we're going to refer to these people, one, we shouldn't be calling them the mainstream media. They're the corporate media.
Yeah.
Two, they're not journalists. They're content creators.
Yeah, and CNN's media content creator, Brian Stelter, of course, will eventually run a segment being like, the new attack from the right, referring to hardworking journalists as content creators. And then he'd have Republicans pounce, and they'd have like a round table of like, the strategy here is really to diminish the role we do in holding power to account and speaking truth to power. And
yeah, remember when they compared themselves to like active military members? CNN did this. They're like, yeah, we're the best. It was like 2015.
Brian Williams did that perfectly too.
Yeah, he sure did.
It's a good point too, because I actually wouldn't care the bias and all that kind of stuff. It wouldn't bother me if they were just called something else. The fact that they claim to be journalists is the problem, because the thing is, when we hear everyone complain about bias in the media has always been biased. You go back and read like headlines from newspapers during the Civil War era, and it's extremely partisan. The difference is back then they didn't pretend otherwise. They embraced the fact that we have a point of view. So the problem with CNN is that if they would just admit that, look, we come from a left-wing perspective, this is what we care about, this is our perspective, then like, fine, do your thing. Just don't pretend otherwise.
It's weird, though. I mean, I don't think the current left-right phrasing, I've said this for a while, it makes literally no sense. But I've kind of come to an understanding. The reality is there are two realities. And so I think all of us in this room exist in one political compass reality, and that is honest and true reality. Of course, we believe that. That's why we're all sitting here. But what I mean is, we fact check things. We try to make sure we get things right. Good example, the Covington kids, this big fake news, thing thrown out in the media, or Kyle Rittenhouse. We're the kind of people, whether we agree or disagree on certain political policies or certain, economic policies, we all agree on what is real, because we've looked at it and said, oh, okay, Trump didn't really do anything wrong when he was throwing the food into the koi pond. He was just doing what Shinzo Abe did. But then you have this other political compass of people who live in the Matrix. It's almost like a blue pill, red pill political compass. So it's funny when you see these people will say like this show is right wing. What they're really saying is they exist in a separate reality. Because I certainly think I'm to the left of you, Matt, and like we can agree on the truth, but we probably disagree on policy positions. But we can sit here and have conversation because we agree on what is real. So that's kind of the point. Like to talk about the leftists and to mention CNN. Well, populist socialist types would be like CNN is not left wing. They're right wing. It's like, no, hold on. In your bubble world, yeah, CNN is the right wing. In the fake reality they live in, the corporate press is authoritarian and right wing.
So it's almost like they have their own scale of right and left.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So they're like, this is CNN is right wing, and then everything else.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.